Guess what? We're not doing any music. Haha, what's up, everybody? I'm late. Nobody's here waiting. Hold on, how many people are here waiting? 11 of you. Wow. Incredible. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit late. I'm very tired. I'm like reflecting on this morning. I'm like, why am I so tired? Like, first of all, a lot of the time in the morning I spend like an extra hour in bed like before I get up. I'm just like scrolling on my phone and I'm symptoms are worse for POTS in the morning. Like, so I just end up like scrolling on my phone and like trying to be normal and get used to being awake in the morning. And I'm feeling really funky today. And I'm actually realizing like maybe it's because I haven't taken any iron recently. So, yay. Anyway, will you hit the like button? Is a chat poll that I'm putting up now. Please hit the like button. We're going to probably do a shorter stream today. I would estimate that we're gonna do like about 2 hours, maybe a little bit less than that. Cause boy, I still have to produce later tonight, so I'm like tired. Sorry to everybody who is expecting some bombastic energy today. It is most certainly not happening. I think part of it is that I don't take days off as much as I was hoping to with this new job. And I'm not complaining. I'm very grateful to have income and, multiple streams of income and all this kind of shit. But it does suck a little bit that, like, we have a lot of extra stuff. So I was like, okay, when I started this job, I was like, okay, you want me to produce on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Those are my 3 production days. And then oh, hi, baby. Hi. Oh my gosh. Yes, I know all about it. Um, my stream, obviously, so Sunday is a double duty day. I stream and then I produce. Monday, Tuesday, a lot of the times on Monday we have the podcast. We, haven't done it for a couple weeks, but a lot of the time I'm recording a podcast on a Monday. And then my show on Wednesday, and then Takis on Thursday, and a lot of the times Takis followed by Calling It Now. And then, so that's my expectation. My expectation was like, I can expect to mostly have like a 5-day work week. But the way that it's been shaking out is we have a lot of extra stuff and it's great. And I'm so glad that we offer so many bonus things for people who are fans to get on there. So we did LineCon this weekend. If you don't know, LineCon is basically the oh, did I not hit this on here, let me get this in here. Okay, I did the notification tag in the Discord. But yeah, so yesterday we had LineCon, and we basically LineCon online, presented by the Line or whatever the fuck Jimmy calls it, is it's like a when you go and you can watch a lecture at like a conference, but we're just doing that online, right? So I had a presentation this week, so I spent time during the week, including on Friday, which was supposed to be my day off, and like also Friday was like I was like stressed out and ended up pacing the entire day. So like I completely like lost a day off to just pacing all day on Friday. So I was working on my presentation, and it was like a 20-minute presentation, and it is going to be live on the channel later in the future. I don't know exactly what the timeline on that is, but this is like our way to incentivize people to join on Patreon. So like $15 a month basically gets you a ticket to our monthly LineCon event, effectively. And yeah, this week it was me and Austin Archer and Seth Andrews all did presentations. Our $5 Patreon tier is like you can see the VOD afterwards, and then like in 2 or 3 months it'll go live on the main channel. Trans Unfiltered. Hey, it's Southern Autism here. Change the name, getting ready to do content. Fuck yeah, that's exciting. Also, hi. I haven't specifically said hi to everybody. M on My Do Land. Hello. And Gayfesh. Hello. Psychoplebalian. Hello. Oh my gosh. Burpee, burpee, burpee. If it makes you feel any better, Jovan was tired today and did a short show as well. Yeah, he also was just sick recently, so I don't blame him at all. Yeah, we've got lots of shows on the Sunday that we want to start doing. yeah, I feel like it's important to show up. So even if I only stream for 1 hour, which I am not planning on only streaming for 1 hour, but even if I were to only stream for 1 hour, the point is to be somewhat consistent. Um, I'm not going to show you the boy today because this morning I gave him a flea bath and he is still a bit wet. We decided not to like blow dry him. We just towel dried him pretty good. And then we were like, let's just let him, kind of figure it out from there. So I'm not going to pick him up because he is just soggy. Are you soggy? Mr. Baby? Soggy boy? Yeah. He's not mad at me though, which is, I'm grateful that he's not mad. He was a little bit freaked out for a little bit, but now he's like accepting pets and being like, the little talks that he does. Hi, Starbush. Interesting name. What's up, Evil Cupra? Riffs no leads. CLJ loves Mal. Hello. Neurodivergent Netizen, which is also M. You said that was M? Yeah. Baphomet, hello. 1 month until Christmas. Santa deniers do not interact. Can we skip Christmas? No. Yeah, I'm trying to decide what exactly we're doing for Christmas. Although, in a much more immediate sense, I just placed my weekly grocery order last night, which is a day earlier than I usually place my order. I'm still going to pick it up tomorrow, but I was like, yeah, let me make sure I can get this turkey before everybody else gets their turkey. So I got the turkey, I got a ham. I'm going to have my younger sibling make green bean casserole probably. And our friend is making some kind of potato dish. And then my husband is going to make a dessert. And that's going to be, deviled eggs. I'm going to make deviled eggs as well. So that's kind of my Thanksgiving plans right now. I'm curious, what was your oh shit moment when you realized you might have POTS? Was it just always known? I'm thinking I might have POTS or other. So I don't think I really fully understood that I have POTS until the last 4 or 5 years. I've always had a little bit of orthostatic intolerance. Like when I was a teenager, I remember very distinctly one time my dad like wanted me in the living room and I like stood up from my chair in my bedroom and I walked out and halfway down the hallway and then my vision just went away and I didn't like fall, but I had my wherewithal enough to like sit down. So I like sat down immediately. So I have had that. And then like in retrospect, I'm also realizing like I've always craved a lot of salt. When my mom worked at Sonic, I would just get those salt packets and like rip one half open and dump the entire thing on my tongue and then rip the other half open and do the other one. And it was like, yeah, in retrospect, yeah. But it wasn't until after my first COVID infection, maybe my first 1 or 2 COVID infections, I guess, that just like exacerbated it and made my condition worse enough that I could not continue to ignore it. Or I could not continue to just like, yeah, sometimes when I stand up, I feel a little faint and then I have to stand there and like flex my leg muscles to redo the blood pressure and it was fine. But yeah, and I guess maybe it could have been getting worse before COVID as well. Cause I do remember like when I worked at a gas station and at one point my heart rate just like skyrocketed for seemingly no reason. So yeah, it's like as I've gotten older, it's just been like, it's impossible to ignore. And at this point, it's like, yeah, I just feel really fucked up a lot of the time. I don't know if what I have is qualified as long COVID or if it's literally just like dysautonomia that has gotten worse over time. But I don't know. Well, I'm going to find out next year. I'm going to go ahead and get health insurance for this upcoming year for my sibling and I. I'm hoping that it's relatively less expensive than getting all of that. I mean, like, I have a lot of healthcare that I need, and it would be very expensive to get all of it done unless I can get health insurance, and then it will still be expensive to get everything done, but not, like, unfathomably expensive. Are you going to do the tilt table test? I mean, if it's necessary, like, I don't know. It's certainly a variant of long COVID. Okay, but what I'm saying is that I was born with this problem, so I don't know if it could be qualified as long COVID. I already had POTS beforehand, probably because of a connective tissue disorder. So I know that POTS is like people are developing POTS after COVID exposure, but I was clearly born with it. Like I've clearly been dealing with this my entire life. It was just more mild before. But I also I do like in retrospect, I'm like even before COVID, my symptoms were getting worse and like less avoidable. And like I probably was pushing myself too hard all the time, and which is probably why it got worse. Um so I don't, I could guess that COVID made my shit worse, but like if I'm actually looking at the timeline, it was definitely prior to that I was starting to have like, extreme heart rate while just standing up. So yeah, I don't know. Has Jimmy looked into if company health insurance is cheaper through the line than individual insurance? So the thing is that we are all kind of like 1099 contractors. We're like, I think Arden is the only like technical employee, but yeah, basically like I don't think we've looked into that at all. We would need to grow more as a company to be able to provide that, because also like we have, even if we were to suddenly make everybody and like an actual employee, I think that we're still below the amount that it's like required to get health insurance. There's like a weird middle ground there where it's like you're not required to have it, and you're also not really quite getting subsidized enough for it to be worth it as a company to provide the. I don't know. Anyway, I wonder if you could just skip the testing and just start treatment or management. Yeah. And I mean, that's the question too, right? Is like with my POTS, like, do I need any medicine right now? I guess is kind of the question. Like, is there any diagnostic reason? There's like no point to getting diagnosed with something if you're not trying to seek care for it. If you're not trying to get other coverage for it. Yes, it can bring you peace of mind to know, yeah, I have POTS or whatever, but if ultimately you're just going to end up using a bunch of home care, palliative care to treat it, then like, does it really matter if I get a tilt table test? I guess I can confirm that it's POTS and like not something else. So in the terms of like, let's make sure that I don't actually secretly have cancer. Like, I'm going to get a pulse oximeter with Bluetooth that I can live monitor on my phone so that I can do home tests. Yeah. Hello, Shakespeare says, same. The signs of POTS were always there for me in less noticeable ways until other things made all the things eventually worse. Yeah. Like, COVID is a big stressor on the body, and it causes inflammation that can last beyond the initial infection, right? But stress also causes inflammation. I think honestly that this is why, and this was the topic of the talk that I gave at LineCon this weekend. We talked about disability and COVID basically, and like how marginalized people are more affected by it. So marginalized people are more affected by COVID and are more likely to be disabled in general. And I suspect that part of the reason for that is that, okay, so marginalized people, like, so black folks, trans folks, queer folks, women, all more likely to be disabled than the general population, and all more likely to get long COVID after a COVID infection, right? So I personally, it's my theory, I don't know how well this has been corroborated, but that the stress those minorities are under, and the fact that they don't really have the option to take the appropriate time afterwards to rest and recover, because it takes like 6 to 8 weeks to fully recover from COVID. It's like having surgery, but we don't give ourselves a month of rest. We have to go back to work in a week, right? So I suspect, and also like, women obviously doing the child rearing, and the more poor you are, and marginalized people are more likely to be more poor, so you can't risk taking as much time off work. I think that it's the inherent stress of being in those groups and the probably pre-existing inflammation from stress that then compounds when you get COVID. And like, that's why it's more likely, in my theoretical opinion. So yeah, disability justice consequently is also intersectional justice for every other marginalized group, because they're more likely to be impacted. But anyway, I'm not going to blow my entire load. I was kind of wondering if maybe, so that talk is going to be available in a couple months, and I was kind of wondering if maybe I could release the outline of the talk on Patreon for maybe just like the $1 tier. Um, I don't know if that's the kind of stuff that you all would care about, but hello, Noah. Later, Baphomet. I guess I don't know what PTC is in this context. For PTC under the ACA, being a business owner has its advantages. You can make the numbers work in your favor depending on how your taxes are filed since it goes on your net and not gross. Yeah, that's another thing too where uh I need to get my ducks in a row to do the LLC thing, and then maybe my health insurance could be a tax write-off in that sense as well. I need to really find a CPA. I talked to a CPA that I'm like kind of iffy about, so I need to talk to a couple more and like get an accountant situation figured out. And hopefully somebody who will give me more advice. It's going to be posted for free in the coming month. Yeah. So LineCon, we do it live with a live Q&A on the day of, $15. If you want to see the video on demand for the next month or two, $5 on Patreon. Or it'll go live and public in like 2 or 3 months. I'm not sure what the timeline is on that. Oh, the premium tax credit. Okay, cool, yeah. I also didn't know this, but I was in the middle of like signing up for starting the application for health insurance. And if someone has ever been in foster care, the government guarantees their health insurance up until a certain age of like age 24, or maybe it's 26, the same as the ACA. So I haven't finished the application process, but it kind of seems like my younger sibling might be able to get free health insurance for the next several years. And so like I said, I haven't finished the whole process. When I was looking speculatively at it, it was going to be like $700 a month for both of us to have gold coverage. So I'm hoping that it'll bring it back down if my younger sibling is guaranteed free healthcare because I don't think it was crazy long, but they were in the foster care system at one point. So yeah, that could be great. I think it's if they were in foster care at 18 years old. That's not what it said when I was in the middle of the process. They asked, has this person ever been in foster care? And I said, yes. So, and I know that you're like committing perjury if you do it wrong. So I'm like, that's what it said. Unless I dramatically misunderstood something. Oh, wait. Okay. So, this says, yeah, on or after their 18th birthday. Okay. Okay, but I did say that they weren't on Medicaid. So maybe that would be the thing that would be like, okay, they're not actually eligible if they weren't on Medicaid during that time either. So, okay. So maybe, it's still gonna, still I'm signing up for $700 a month on the gold plan. Okay, well, yeah, no, I appreciate it, Blueberry Enjoyer. Like I said, I was like, I'm not even sure I answered the questions honestly, and I don't consider you the bearer of bad news in this sense, because I was already like, I've already worked up the numbers, and I'm like, if both of us have health insurance and we both get all of the healthcare we need this year, I'm gonna spend like $13,000 on healthcare this year, including the premiums, and that's assuming that everything is covered in the way that I understand it to be covered on the plan when I was reading the plan. So health insurance is so fucking stupid. And I was talking to my partner, about this whole, Oregon is probably like capital G going to have universal health care by 2030. Just based on the timeline, even if the legislation doesn't take it up, we will do a ballot measure for the people will vote on it, and I can't imagine not getting it, with the number of liberals who live in Oregon. So, but it's like, okay, so I can wait until 2030 for some things probably, but not for a lot of things. Like I can't wait 4 years for some of this stuff. Especially of like dermatology, like I want to get some moles looked at and stuff. Like you cannot wait to look at moles. They're highly aggressive forms of cancer. If you haven't, I don't think I have cancer or anything, but my grandma had melanoma, so I do need to be like proactive and preventative about that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'm hoping like by the time it's 2030, we'll have universal health care in Oregon. I will have made up my mind about whether I want to have a child. So at that point, I can get, I can either start the process of trying to have a kid or finally just get my fucking bottom surgery. Like, that's the thing that I hadn't even considered until just now, basically. That, like, if we get universal health care in Oregon, that means that I could get bottom surgery and have it be covered. As long as I jump through whatever hoops and, prove that I'm suffering enough to deserve it. Oh my God, my glasses are so fucking dirty. My cloths are not clean either. I washed one of my cloths earlier, but it's wet now. If there's any healthcare/marketplace questions at all that anybody here has, let me know and I'll do a write-up for it and post it later. Yeah, Trans Unfiltered in the YouTube chat is like trying to make some content explaining the health insurance system. So if anybody has health insurance related questions. Suffering tokens are very important to collect, I have learned. What is a suffering token? It's how you get the good benefits. What are you talking about? Are you making a joke and I just am not getting it? So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about lately. I'm really looking forward to getting paid this month, I worked a shit ton for the line last month, so I'm expecting to get a nice big fat paycheck, and at that point, I will figure out what the fuck I'm gonna do for Christmas. So hopefully that'll be settled before the end of the week. If you're suffering enough, you get tokens. Exactly. I don't want to just sit on all the knowledge I have because it's been monumentally beneficial to my gender affirming care. Totally, yes. The fact that you practically need an entire degree on how to navigate this health insurance nightmare is crazy. It's crazy. I cannot believe. And it sucks. Like, I definitely do need this healthcare. I think if I'm lucky, if I plan things just right, I can get all of the healthcare I need over the next year. Make sure I get all my preventative screenings and everything. Like, let's double check things, make sure I don't have any cancer or anything right now. And then, okay, I don't think I need health insurance from 2027 up until it's potentially universal health care in my state. I went from 276 days of homelessness. Once I got declared long-term homeless, suddenly I started receiving everything I needed, like Housing First initiatives. Yeah, those suffering tokens, you needed enough of them for free housing. Yeah, there's such a broad middle ground area where you cannot get the help that you need, right? I know, I don't know how many people in my audience have experienced this actually, because I think a lot of you are probably lower income, but there is like you're lower income and you're getting a tax refund every year. There's that level where you're at. And then, 376 days, over a year to be declared long-term homeless. So there's like a period of time where you're getting a tax refund, but then your income gets a little bit higher and suddenly you don't qualify for the earned income tax credit anymore. And so your taxable income is just like much higher. And so then you start owing at the end of the year or, maybe breaking even, but it's just like, and I think we, even for the last several years, because honestly, we've been like, frankly like not sure if we're going to get divorced kind of on and off for a long time. And so yeah, a lot of the times we are both submitting more taxes through the year than we necessarily need to, because if we were to suddenly be like we're filing separately, then we wouldn't want to owe all the taxes at the end of the year. But so even if we're paying more in taxes in the year, we still end up owing, and it's very fucking annoying. I'm going to probably just like, honestly, this paycheck, the big one I'm about to get, I might not even put all of it. I might go ahead and take like half of it and just be like, this is my quarterly tax payment.
J Dub Awesome
so
has
that hopefully I don't owe
$150.
$3,000.
It's been a while since I could
April.
afford to support the channel. Happy to do so today. Thank you for the community you've built.
Thank you. I'm so sorry that I was talking over that for a second there. Holy shit. Actually, I just clocked the amount. Jade of Awesome with a $150 donation. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are here, and thank you very much for that very generous donation. That's fucking crazy. Thank you. Oh my god. You can see the donation goal for right now is no soup for you, because earlier the cat was laying over here, and therefore I did not put anything in the treasure chest. And it's also no soup for you because the cat is wet. I don't know where he is. He's wet from flea bath this morning, so I'm also not going to pick him up for you. So, no soup for you. We have achieved the goal. Thank you, Jade. Oh my gosh, that is so generous. I'm going to add that to the goal. 150. Look at that number go up all the way. No soup for you. Yum. I love how I've never really meaningfully watched Seinfeld, but it just exists in the zeitgeist to the extent that I can make references to it. Yeah, holy cow, thank you so much. I'm really bad at practicing, or like I'm bad at performing gratitude. But holy shit, thank you. So soup for you. No soup for you. None. Yeah, I don't know. Do other countries have shorter standards? Like if you're homeless for 3 months, that's considered long-term homeless? Like how long does a person need to be homeless before it's considered like a problem that you should help them with, you know? I have been seeing on Facebook some dude who, so I follow some local groups and stuff like that. I see this guy who is constantly making videos from Portland, and it's usually like he's standing in front of somebody's fucking tent. Like he's standing in what is effectively someone's front yard, and just like with them in the background filming and talking about them while they're standing right there, or like while they're sleeping or whatever. And I find it really problematic. And one of the things that I find really irritating about him is he'll be like, and this is someone who has been here for, several years, and they reject all offers of help. They'll accept, if you want to hand them food, but if you try to, offer them any other meaningful relocation or housing or whatever, they just say no. And I'm like, okay, you can't understand the idea of being like super down on your luck and in a situation where people have tried to fuck with you before, and like maybe you don't want to go to a shelter because you've been raped there, or like you don't want to be indebted to someone or have someone hold it over your head, and there's like a feeling of shame of being in that situation in the first place. So like I really don't like this attitude that people have where they're like, oh, and this person has just decided that they're going to live in squalor and that they're going to refuse all help, and like you can't, housing clearly isn't the solution to this problem if they just won't. And like, okay, it just is super exploitative, obviously. Like literally standing in front of someone's tent and filming yourself with them and their belongings in the background is obviously exploitative in the first place. But then adding on to it that you're basically trying to spin up this narrative that like, yeah, it's a narrative that homelessness is a choice and a moral problem, as opposed to like, this is a shit situation that people end up in, and that like, maybe they've tried to get a job and been rejected over and over again, or maybe they've only ever had abusive workplaces. So they're like, fuck it, it's not worth it. I'm going to go make, even if you're making $15 an hour in the Portland area, that is not necessarily enough to be able to afford a place to live. And just like the whole process of going from being homeless to being employed and in a place that you rent it or whatever is an enormous situation full of opportunities to exploit people. And I don't blame folks for being like, it's literally just easier to be cold in the winter than it is to fucking jump through all these hoops and try to get a job and everything. So, yeah, the narrative of like, well, they don't want to follow the rules. Joe Yauza, is that, do you know the guy? Is that the guy? No, you're just saying things, Noah. Okay, I was like, what? I'm really bad about this. I'll see the same person's posts in my Facebook feed, and then I'm like, I don't even follow you, but I sit here and watch it often enough that Facebook is like, oh, cool, yeah, like you want to keep seeing this, but um, I don't clock the names of these pages very often. I was like, I love Burritos and ADHD. She's great, and I also had no fucking clue what her channel was called until very recently. Also, how are you supposed to verify that you've been homeless? No kidding. Yeah. I don't know how you're supposed to verify that kind of thing. I found that in some things it can be harder to get certain public assistance if you're homeless. Yeah, sure. They're falling through the cracks. I think it's a problem that you can become homeless to begin with. No fucking kidding. Like the fact that that's a thing that anyone has to be concerned about, that there is like a societal niche called being a homeless person that, you know, yeah, maybe in a society where all these needs are accounted for, maybe there would still be some people who are like, I choose to live in the woods because it's lit and I love it, right? There will be people who are nomadic because they want to be. People who are like, I like the lifestyle of living in my van and traveling and seeing all these beautiful places and whatever. Like there will still be people who choose that as a lifestyle. Like I'm not trying to say that that would not be possible, but that for the majority of people now, it probably is more likely because of systemic abuses that they're like, I'm not gonna fucking bother. Yeah, homeless shelters are often hotbeds of bigotry. That's so true. Naomi Faithless, which by the way, let me pull this up. Naomi, a member of our community and a member of the community on the line, she is still homeless in Baltimore. And still she needs money with like for her like daily living. She needs food, she needs bus fare, she is sleeping on the streets right now. It's very expensive for us to keep funneling money into her having a motel. And she can't afford that. So she's just on the streets. So please donate to her GoFundMe, please. Posting the links. Thank you for donating to me, of course. That's helpful and I appreciate it. But also, like, we are currently trying to help her get into a place where she's going to be able to mobilize toward stability. She wants to go back to college. She wants to be able to create art, and she can't do any of that shit right now. So, we're doing what we can. I used to live in the woods, LOL. Yeah, I mean, very lucky and had a housing case manager. Without a good caseworker, I would be homeless for certain. Yeah, like there have to be robust services, or you're just kind of screwed, or you're relying a lot on peer support. I do really wish that we could. I think that the number one thing would be like, I need to get to know some trans people in Baltimore who would be willing to let her crash, or who can, maybe like 3 or 4 people who she can rotate between crashing on their couch while she's working on. Because like, how the fuck are you supposed to do anything that you need to do if you can't sleep at night? Because people keep walking by, or there's a police sweep, or you're trying to protect your shit from getting stolen. Like, I don't know. It's really frustrating. But anyway, the homeless shelters are hotbeds of bigotry thing. Like, Naomi was in a shelter and she kept being confronted with transphobia. Like, people at the shelter kept being transphobic toward her. So she was like, it would literally be better for me to leave here. Getting and using whatever government slash nonprofit backed supports is crucial towards stability if you're unable to work. Yeah. And she is disabled, Naomi. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, she's got some hypothyroidism and other issues like that that she details on her GoFundMe page. But I don't know that she's unable to work, but it's certainly you can't get a job unless you have an address. And then someone in chat made a really good recommendation that some public libraries give out a library card. And basically they can say the shelter was their address. You would need a new letter every few months, though. Okay. Libraries are amazing. I fucking love libraries. Could a hotel donate rooms to the homeless and then write off the business loss as long as the person is providing evidence of job hunting or reasonably seeking things that get assistance? That would be one thing. That that's something that they could do. It's not as though they, I don't think a hotel can like claim any kind of loss if they have an empty room. So they could, I'm not saying like, I'm not going to suggest that hotels should bypass the opportunity to make money. But if they have empty rooms, if they're like, we know that this weekend we don't have any bookings, so we have 80% of our rooms are going to be empty. So let's, make those rooms available. I don't know what. There's a lot of fucking rules that actually prevent you from helping homeless people, which is really frustrating. Like, you can't like set up a table and give out food just as a person who wants to do that. You have to be part of an organization, and that organization has to have like, probably if it's like a food kitchen giving out money, they have to be inspected in the way that restaurants are inspected for food safety standards, blah, 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 etc. So there actually are barriers. It would not surprise me if there was like some active rule against hotels providing free housing. I don't know. Good luck, Guzman Jones. I know the feeling of being at work. Shakespeare says, I've always avoided shelters for reasons of bigotry, even in this relatively great state of Minnesota. Funny enough, now I live as a resident in one. The first 2 floors is a shelter, and the top floors are residential for a Housing First initiative. That is, I guess, a little bit ironic that you're like, I've refused to stay in shelters, but now I'm living above a shelter in a Housing First initiative residency. Bloody Hatter, my couch is up for offer. Are you in the Baltimore area? Like, I need Naomi to have more friends in Baltimore. Like, she needs more people who she can at least hang out with. Like, I don't think she has a support network in that way. So even if y'all don't have a couch, you don't want maybe like a stranger sleeping in your house, but like just, so that there's someplace warm for her to hang out sometimes. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to put yourself out there and build up that network of support and to navigate this whole system without help, really. It's like, and I literally am on the other side of the country. I'm like 3,500 miles away. Actually, that's an interesting question. How many miles from Oregon to Maryland? Okay. Oh, well, I guess it's kind of going off of the center points, and I'm closer to the actual West Coast, but yeah, like 2,500 miles. How about like from Portland to Baltimore? Okay, yeah, 2,800 miles. So like, yeah, almost 3,000 miles. Fucking Christ, dude. What's up, Jessica? Has Naomi heard of Baltimore Safe Haven as a support system focused on the homeless that are LGBTQ? Yeah, I've recommended to her a couple times. I don't know if she's had a chance to drop by. I also encouraged her to send them an email contact because they also have like their mobile service where they can bring you food or like, help you get around town or whatever. I don't know if she's accessed that service yet. This is part of what's kind of difficult is like I don't want to hound her, and I don't want to try to make decisions on her behalf or anything, and I don't want to paternalistically be like, well, you're not doing the thing that makes the most sense to do. So I'm like, here's what I would recommend. Here's what I think, this could be helpful or whatever. And all I'm going to be able to do really is just make sure that you're still receiving some amount of money. That's kind of the only thing that I can manage to do. Housing first is good since it gives you your own space to feel safe in, and there needs to be way more of it. Yeah. We need to put more resources toward this. It's like, it's not just housing too. It's housing that you're means testing people for as well. Like when people are like, well, you should be able to pass a drug test before we give you housing or before you can get on SNAP benefits. And it's like, well, okay, you've been homeless and like drugs are the only thing that can help you sleep, for example. In a situation where you're sleeping outside and you're jumpy and you wake up at every noise. Or since 50 to isn't it 50 to 60% of homeless folks are employed nowadays, so like if half or more than half of homeless people are employed, maybe they're on drugs because they have to work multiple jobs. And you know what is an effective but harmful way for you to have enough energy to work 60 to 80 hours a week? Methamphetamine. So like I just think we're also putting all these barriers in the way. You must have been homeless for at least 364 days before we'll give you housing, or you can't have done drugs in the last month or whatever. Like, it's just a lot of bullshit that's fucking pointless. It's like our feeling like some people deserve to have a house. Like some people deserve to sleep outside is the system that we're in. And in order to avoid confronting the feeling like some people just deserve to sleep outside and live in squalor because they haven't earned the right to a house, you do things like stand in front of somebody's fucking tent and criticize them for making personal choices that you disagree with, instead of like grappling with the fact that you believe in a system that forces people onto the streets. What really annoys me is how caseworkers will become hostile to you when you point out that you're scared of bigots in shelters. Ugh. I hope that people who work in that kind of sensitive environment would be intersectionally aware. But I'm sure there are people who try to work at shelters. There are people who become nurses. There are people who become caseworkers because they want to have a position of power over vulnerable people. So there are going to be the good folks who are like, I genuinely want to help people and all I want to do is help you get into a housing, and like I want to make sure that you're safe and okay. And there's people who are like, I like that I get to be the arbiter. I get to be the one who tells you that you either deserve or don't deserve this assistance. And like the power to send you back out on the street if you don't jump through the hoops and if you don't smile just right and all this kind of shit. Like, it's truly vile. The way you say that makes me wonder why the ultra rich aren't advocating for legal drugs for their employees. Well, because they still benefit from a system in which workers are pushed to their limits and where individuals are incarcerated so that they can be utilized for slave labor. They don't advocate, like, rich people do a bunch of drugs. They do a bunch of drugs, and they don't really care about the consequences. Nobody's drug testing the CEO of the company, okay? So they can do a bunch of drugs, and it doesn't matter to them. They can afford it. And they can afford to buy themselves out of jail if something did happen in that way. And they benefit from a system in which the lower classes are policed for doing those same drugs. Like, dude, you know who does cocaine more than fucking anybody else? White collar workers, especially high performing workers like CEOs and lawyers and stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Oh, that's another good point. Ghost Pepper Lollipop, fucking stellar username, by the way. Uh, Listen, Ghost Pepper tastes amazing. If you can get past how fucking hot it is, oh my god, it tastes so good. Um, Anyway, Ghost Pepper Lollipop says this society is not trauma informed, and often our social safety nets aren't trauma trained because if we healed all that trauma, the system could no longer capitalize. That's a great point. I think that's a great point that, yeah, a lot of these services are not trauma informed. So, like, okay, the fact that, like, at one clinic that I went to a clinic that, so I got an IUD placed, and the way that my IUD was placed, I don't think that that person, that practitioner had a trauma informed approach. But then later, when I got my Nexplanon put in, I felt like that was an extremely trauma focused situation where she was like, you know, I'm going to have you turn your head away. Like, I'm not going to do any of this procedure with you looking at it. You know, I'm going to have you turn your head away. And I wonder if maybe that was because I said, like, I was traumatized by the placement of my IUD and I went somewhere else for them to remove it because, oh my God, dude, let me tell you this. So I got these IUD placed and it was physically traumatic and emotionally traumatic for completely different reasons. But it wouldn't stop cramping for 7 months and I wanted it taken out. And at my original clinic that I went to, they were like, you have to come in and talk to us and then we'll set an appointment to remove it. And I was like, fuck you. Are you serious that you yanked my organs around with a claw without telling me that that was even remotely in the cards for the possibilities of things that could happen today? And you're going to have me sit here and talk to you about it before you take it the fuck out? No, absolutely not. I went to a different hospital, a different clinic to get it removed. And that person, the brief time that I was in their office and talking to them, that person was chill and very like communicative and like, I'm going to tell you. And she also told me like, here's why the claw was used on your fucking organs. She told me like, you know, and like things like that can help. If it's like, hey, your vaginal canal takes a hard left turn at the end. And so in order to line everything up, I'm going to have to claw your cervix. I might have been like, never mind. Do you think maybe the option to say never mind was a good fucking idea? I had no idea. And I, you know, maybe part of that is on me because I didn't look up the procedure beforehand. But I feel like I shouldn't have had to look up the procedure beforehand for my doctor to create a situation where I had informed consent. I'm gonna die mad about it. I'm legitimately like going to die mad about this. Don't even remember why I'm talking about this now. I do anti-misogyny content and the name Ghost Pepper Lollipop is fun. My takes are spicy and I am sweet. That's lovely. I love that. I had an IUD years and years before my histo and it was awful. It shifted and hurt so bad. Yeah, I think that mine was where it was supposed to be. My body just hated having it there. Yeah, they're terrible about informed consent for AFAB healthcare. There are so many things I would have done differently. Legitimately. Like, I'm so mad. And I'm like mad also that it's like, it was a woman who inserted it. I'm like, you couldn't you don't think it was worth it to tell me? But she also had had her IUD put in right after she had a kid. So, you know, completely different situation, I guess, where her shit was already so open and everything that you could just put it right where it needs to go. But holy fucking shit. I was mad. Like, are you serious telling me to take fucking ibuprofen? Ibuprofen before having a sharp metal claw yank your inner organs into place. Like, fuck you. Oh my God. I'm so mad. I'm so ass mad about it. Anyway. Cliff, probably going to be lurking for a bit. I need to get ready for a prep day for the Rising Tide port blockade at Newcastle. Newcastle? with other local members of the Socialists. Nice. I've been kind of debating whether I think there's a local chapter of the Communist Party, there's a local chapter of the DSA. I've been contemplating, the potential of getting in and starting being politically active, I guess. I'm not registered as a member of a party currently. I'm using the same primary care physician now that I did before transition, and they don't take me seriously anymore. They used to just do whatever I asked, and now they try to talk me down. I've never experienced this, but in this upcoming year, I might have to use this. It depends. It depends on how shitty the doctors are in my area. I don't know. I haven't gone to the doctor yet since moving. But the whole if you ask for some kind of test, if you're like, I'm concerned about this or whatever, and I'd like to explore this test or let's look into a potential diagnosis for this. If the doctors are just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to, you can be like, okay, so I want it documented in my chart today that I came in with XYZ symptoms and that I wanted to get I wanted to get ABC tests done and you said no. I also am prepared, because of course, I'm female, people are going to perceive me that way and everything. I'm also getting prepared to, if I come in and I'm saying, I'm having heart palpitations and all this, I'm prepared for someone to be like, well, this is anxiety. And I'm going to be like, oh, okay, so I guess I came to the social work. I came to a psychologist today. I made a mistake because I'm here for a medical issue and you actually don't know anything about mental health. You are not a professional in that as far as I'm concerned. You are here to give me a medical diagnosis. And I already have mental health treatment elsewhere. I've gotten plenty of mental health treatment. So it kind of seems like what you're doing is operating outside the scope of what your entire job is, which is to treat a medical problem that I have. So if you're trying to sit here and tell me that I have anxiety and you're not going to do this testing, then yeah, I want you to document today that you went outside the scope of your practice to diagnose me with depression or something. In a 10-minute conversation, you're just going to decide that I have anxiety. I have a general anxiety disorder, and you're just not going to treat me. I'm going to be a bitch if somebody tries to deny me treatment or tell me, oh, well, we're not going to do a tilt table test. Guess what? I'm the one who's fucking paying for it. I was reading something on Reddit the other day that was oh, doctors in this particular place, they act like it's coming out of their own pocket when you ask for additional diagnostic testing. And it's yeah, no, prepare to have a patient that you fucking hate if you're about to disregard my concerns and tell me that I have anxiety. Are you fucking kidding me? Hi, random citizen. And I love you, random citizen. Shakespeare says, I've had to be a vigilant self-advocate in order to keep myself safe. I have a habit of ending up in the ER, and I have a habit of catching the bad times from doctors and nurses. Yeah. I've never had a doctor try to power trip on me before, but... And I'm at this place now where on a pretty regular basis, when I'm confronted with somebody who disagrees with me and stuff, I'm getting into more of a practice of just being of just calling it out. Okay, so you're just being misogynistic now. So I obviously when you're in a medical situation, it's vulnerable and the doctor has the power to tell you to fuck off and everything. But it's if the doctor is already not trying to treat me, if the doctor's already well, whatever, I've decided not to run this test, then there's no reason for me to not be a bitch. A trinket. Yeah, they keep waffling back and forth with whether they're going to show your at username or your display name. I'm sorry that it's so inconsistent in the chat for you guys on YouTube. I had a primary care physician at a queer-friendly clinic tell me he wouldn't renew my testosterone because he's not an endocrinologist. Then he says, but I won't tell you to stop. Bro, if I was in that situation, I would be like, okay, so you're telling me that you can't look at a chart of normative ranges of testosterone and then do a blood test and tell whether or not you can't look at the results of my blood test and then look at the normative range of testosterone and fucking tell me if I'm in the normative range. Are you that incompetent of a provider? This is what I'm saying. I'm gonna be a raging bitch if somebody tries to deny me medical care that I've asked for. Like, I shouldn't have to shop around for a doctor who's willing to give me the care. It's bad enough that I have to fucking argue with an insurance company about whether I deserve to get the medical care. Bitch. That's me. Genuinely. I'd be like, are you incompetent as a primary care physician? Like, literally, you can't look at a chart and then read my labs. Are you sure you don't need to go back to fucking kindergarten, much less medical school? Like, genuinely, I would have been, I would escalate that from bitch to cunt. Oh boy. I've had a doctor try to avoid giving me life-saving antibiotics because I had an abnormal spread of strep throat into the lungs. Oh boy. I wonder how they would respond if you kept a bag with a Karen wig and clothes. Oh, hey.
John Get Bent got a tier 1 subscription.
Thank you, John Get Bent. Thank you so much for that sub. I don't actually know if that might have been an automatic renewal, or maybe you're here lurking, but thank you. Thank you so much. To that point, I wonder how they would respond if you kept a bag with a Karen wig and clothes and began putting them on when they deny you aid. Actually, I think what the secret is, I think that having a binder with you is the secret. And so this is my DBT binder. This has got like all of my dialectical behavioral therapy tabs and stuff in there. Like, this is the student workbook that I have, you know, DBT overview, core mindfulness, walking the middle path. At one point, I was getting healthcare for my younger sibling, and I had some paperwork in here, like my father gave me guardianship over my younger sibling. I had that notarized. I had my paperwork to be like, I can help my younger sibling. They were still 17 at the time. So I was like, I need that documentation in here. So instead of having like a skinny folder, which I do have some, but instead of a skinny folder, I was like, I'll be able to keep track of this. But the thing is that if you walk into a doctor's appointment or a therapist's office with this, what they want is for you to not open this, I think, is what's going on. Like, that's just lurking. Hey, John Gitman, thank you so much for your donation. I really appreciate it. They want you to not crack this open. This is an implied threat, I think, because people treat me differently when I have this in a medical situation. I'm like sitting there with this, and they can tell, like, that means it's ready. I'm ready for this to come out. So I think that I just need to bring this with me anytime I go to the doctor. And it might be, you know, maybe there's a good reason for it. Like, maybe I have a list. Like, I currently have a list of, like, here's all the referrals that I want. So when I go to the doctor, I'm going to be like, hey, there's maybe like one issue that you can actually help me with, and that's putting me on birth control pills for a second. But mostly I need a bunch of referrals. So I'll have a list instead of relying on my poor memory, and I'll be like, I have this mole that I want to have looked at. I have this and that and the other. I saw a study that said 60% of primary care doctors refuse to engage with HRT in any context. Well, I mean, they're definitely, it's not, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's not any context. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're specifically not treating trans people, because I think if I were to go in and say, hey, I've been having low libido and I've been feeling really sleepy and I've been wondering if maybe a low dose of testosterone would help. Can I get maybe like a topical testosterone? I think they would give it to me. When you have a lot of medical problems, you have to be an expert and you have to have things organized or they won't do shit. The binder is brilliant. I mean, the thing that I like about the binder is that it's full of a bunch of completely unrelated therapy stuff, but it looks like it's full and organized in a medical context. So, of course, they're going to think, oh, this person has a whole fucking binder of their medical stuff. I've never brought it with me for a medical, I don't think. Or maybe I did. Because maybe I also brought the same paperwork for when I took my sibling to the actual doctor. Because there was like therapy stuff and doctor stuff that I was having done for them, and you have to be an adult with guardianship to give consent. Oh no, I just touched my glasses. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. Like, is a doctor actually going to be fucking annoyed by the fact that I have? I mean, probably, like, kind of. Hopefully, I guess the hope is that the doctor is like kind of annoyed and they don't want you to bust open the binder. So it's kind of a subtle. It's an implied threat. It's a subtle thing that's going to say, it's like Karen is waiting to happen. When you bring a binder with you to a meeting, Karen is waiting. Like, Karen is under the surface. She's lurking. She's like a hippo with the eyes just above the surface of the, you know what I mean? Like, she's waiting. I'd be worried about the doctor challenging me on the contents of the binder. I mean, I have no problem saying like, oh, it's mostly other stuff. Like, if the doctor is going to ask me about it, I would be like, oh, I just needed to, I had a list of things that I wanted to talk about today, and it's just in this binder to make sure that I keep track of my paperwork. Like, I'm not going to lie about the contents of the binder. But the point is, I see calling my bluff, like, my experience is that people are not very assertive. And that's in a lot of contexts. And because I am slightly more assertive, I get what I want in situations like driving. You know, when you and another car pull up to the stop sign in different directions, like at like roughly the same time, first of all, most of the time I'll just slow down slower than them so they stop first, and then I'm still slowing down and they can just go. But if you both stop at a similar time and the other person is acting like, well, I don't know if it's my turn, I'm like, I guess it's my turn, you know, within safe limits. Obviously, I'm not trying to endanger myself driving, but there's a lot of situations. And it might also have to do with like how I carry myself in general. But yeah, we're about to discover, like, I'm in a new state, in a new system. I'm going to be using health insurance. And previously I've just been going to a sliding scale clinic. So yeah, maybe I'm about to experience medical misogyny for the first time in my life. Well, that's not true. Obviously the IUD placement was clear medical misogyny, but whatever. I'm quite the bitch as well. The moment someone misgenders me in a clinical setting, I'm like, did you read my chart? Because I'm going to need you to read my chart. I feel like a lot of professionals want passive, ignorant clients. They seem to resent agency. Yeah, like I said, we'll find out. I'm hoping that I'm lucky. I have been very lucky in the past, where I went to I went to a sliding scale clinic, and I happened to find like the most trans affirming doctor potentially in the entire state of Kansas. And I was like fortunate in that way. Like, literally lucky to have gotten good healthcare. I had a therapist who was trans knowledgeable and trans affirming, which was lucky for me. So I'm not going to try to pretend like there hasn't been some aspect of just happening to not end up in bad situations. But yeah, new medical adventures. The other worry is that they would think you're a hypochondriac, which has happened to me. I am not. I have almost died from medical neglect before. Yeah. I feel like I'm so confident, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm looking forward to it. I don't want to be like, that's not going to happen to me. I just feel like it won't happen to me because I'm going to be like, look, here's what's going on. I'm pretty sure it's this, which means it's not really all that life threatening or anything, but it is kind of a burden to deal with on a regular basis. I do want to make sure we rule out anything that could be life threatening. You know, we don't want to just assume whatever, but, I have this like assumption that my approach is part of why I get treated the way that I do. And I do kind of on some level believe that like bullies choose their targets, you know? So while I'm not saying this to victim blame, but there is a pathway of actions you can take to make yourself a less desirable target for a bully. And part of that is by just appearing like a person who was not going to be bullied. You know, people tried to bully me in school, and I was basically like, fucking do it. Let's see. And nobody ever stepped because I don't know. I never got into a fight. So I don't know. Like, I can't say whether I would have whooped somebody's ass, but I did definitely have a feeling of confidence. There was like, when I was in like, I want to say I was like a freshman in high school. No, that's not accurate. No. I would have been like a junior. So yeah, it would have been like my 11th grade year. And I was a small, skinny thing. Like, I don't know if you're able to tell. Like, I'm not a very big person. I mean, I'm bigger now, but I used to be very skinny and I was not very tall. And there was a tall, heavy set girl who was like trying to bully me in the girls' locker room in gym. And I can't even remember what I did or said, but I was just like, whatever, fucking do it, you know, like fucking try me. And she never did. Like, okay, that's what I thought. And there was another time around a similar time where there was a kid in my band class who was wadding up pieces of tape, like balls of tape, and throwing them at me. And after a while of that, I turned around. And so I was in band, I was in the percussion, and I was playing like the xylophone. So, you know, it's like a mallet with a ball at the end. So I turned around and flipped that thing end over end and just hit that kid. And that stopped. It's like, so this is my assumption for how things, I mean, you know, over confidence from when I was a teenager, perhaps, but that's kind of my feeling of how it's going to go if someone tries to fuck with me in my adulthood is like, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, you had something you needed to say to me? I didn't think so. So, I don't know. Is it luck or is it that I'm just the kind of person that people don't want to fuck with? If bullies think you'll fight crazier than they will not fuck with you. Truly. Like, and I don't know. I've never gotten in a fight. But I was abused as a child. And so I think my threshold of how much, like, okay, I've seen people who it's like, if you pull their hair, they just kind of can't do anything because it hurts really bad, right? But guess what? I had my hair pulled as a kid. My mom would just rip through my hair with a brush. And I've never had a sensitive scalp as a result. So pulling my hair doesn't do anything. They're like, oh, you try to pull my hair and then I take your ear? I don't know. We never got into that situation. So I'm glad. But like, you couldn't incapacitate me by just hurting me, you know? At least in that like high school fight kind of context. So I don't really think often nowadays about the possibilities of getting into a physical altercation. That's part of why I stay home. I stay home. I avoided confrontation in adolescence through a neutral, water-like stance. Somehow, basically, no one disliked me. I felt like I was liked by people and disliked by people for reasons that I kind of still don't understand. Does bullying necessarily imply assault? Is bullying just legal because it's against young people? Okay, so I don't think bullying necessarily implies assault because you could be bullying someone just verbally. You know, there's I don't know if I've seen one in a while, but I remember like 10 years ago, there were these like, you know, we really need to curb cyberbullying. And, you know, these kids are getting each other's Snapchats or whatever, and they're whatever, cyberbullying. So harassment is part of bullying as well. But yeah, why is it legal? Like, I think it is legal because people are like, oh, we don't want to. Well, because bullies are often occupying a socioeconomic status that is elevated anyway. So it's like, oh, he's just a troubled kid. It's the same premise as the like, oh, fuck. Oh, hold on. Wait. Brock Turner. Thank you, Phil DeFranco, for making the website Brock Turner is a Rapist so that I'll never forget that guy's name. Anyway, so it's like those situations where a rapist is given like leniency because like, oh, well, he's got a full life ahead of him or whatever. So I guess a lot of the reason why we don't criminalize bullying behavior amongst young people is probably because of that same sort of paternalistic boys will be boys, let's protect his future kind of thing. notwithstanding the trauma that the bullying is doing to the victims, obviously nobody gives a shit about victims of bullying. And like, I do think that there is some kind of relationship between like the people who give a pass to bullying, who perhaps either were bullies themselves or at least hold the belief that some people deserve to be bullied because they're just weak and like this is trying to toughen them up or whatever, which is similar but not the same as my belief that like there is such a thing as trying to behave in a way that you don't get bullied. Like, I don't know. I'm not an easy target. I know that I wouldn't, even if somebody tried to like physically assault me or steal my shit or anything, like, I know that I'm not going to try to act like I can fight off 6 guys who are trying to pull me into a white van or something, but Brock Allen Turner goes by his middle name Allen now. I fucking bet he does. I'm a bit of a bully at work. We have this can of soup that I keep changing out for a slightly newer one, and I'm gaslighting my coworkers saying it's the same tin. It's not really bullying. I like my harmless pranks. I like harmless pranks. I think a little bit of gaslighting as a prank can be fine. Oh, gosh. I think you should defs think about joining a party that could be electorally effective. I mean, my thing is just like, it seems as though whenever you go to sign up for something like that, they require you to use your legal name. And I'm like not trying to put my legal name on a bunch of publicly accessible registries. Does that make sense? So like if I were to join the Democratic Socialists of America, if I become a union, not like a union, but if I become a dues paying member, because I do know that they do have like a membership thing. So yeah, it's like, is my name going to be on a list somewhere where people can find it? If I become active in my actual city where I actually live, is that going to compromise my is that going to compromise me as far as docs is concerned? So anyway. Pyromantic Principle says, depending on the social environment, most of the bullying I experienced was convoluted social sabotage, like lying, rumors, threatening others to go along with it, and not physical fighting. Yeah. I just checked, and yes, Brock Turner is required to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life, so it doesn't matter if he goes by his middle name. Everyone in his life, by law, must be informed. Hell yeah, dude. I'm glad that that's the case. So it's like he cannot get a job without that showing up on his background. But he could, if he got hired in a customer-facing role for some ungodly reason, could go by Alan Turner and have people not know. So, yeah, it's still pretty shitty. That's fair if you don't want to. I'm just saying I don't know if it's safe for me to, right? Like, am I going to have to disclose my zip code in order to join a certain chapter? Am I going to have to put my address on file with that organization? Do any of the, like, you have to understand, like, if Vosh were to try to become a member of his local DSA chapter, and like the ways in which that opens you up to people being like, well, I don't like you politically and therefore I'm going to release your address or real name or whatever. Obviously Vosh's real name is out there, but you see what I'm saying is like, I feel like I am just nervous enough about being on the wrong side of someone that it actually like actively prevents me from doing much organizing in person. That, and we were talking about this during the Q&A section for the LineCon this weekend, that people were like, how do you deal with like organizing politically as a person who needs people to be wearing masks and who really is committed to that as a community harm reduction technique? And my answer was just like, I don't bother. You know, we've talked about doing LineCon in person, and I just don't plan on being involved at all. I don't, like, you don't want me involved. Like, I'm making an assumption that the other people on my network, like my coworkers and the attendees, are not going to be interested in high levels of community protection. Like, if I say, hey, we cannot have an indoor event unless it's masks required, everybody's going to vote me down. So I'm just not going to fucking bother. You know, I'm just not going to try. I don't want to go to a DSA meeting like the one in New York City where there was like more than 100 people packed into a small room and only like a handful of them were wearing masks. Like, I don't want to deal with it. So there's numerous reasons why I'm just like resistant to being involved in other forms of activism. And it sucks because I wish that I wasn't boxed out from it. You know, that I wish that I didn't have to worry about the mean girl kind of bitching within the leftist community that could mean that, like, because I refuse to condemn Vosh, that like somebody's gonna compromise my personal location. Also, if I say, hey, I've been going to these DSA meetings regularly, okay, well, now someone knows where I'm going to be in person, at least sometimes. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm too paranoid about it. Like, I'm willing to admit, like, maybe I am too paranoid. Maybe I should put myself out there a little bit. I share a lot of those fears, especially having a human rights abuse case hanging in the air waiting for the state to finish its investigation. Yeah. And I don't think it's wrong to be, like, worried about those things. Yeah, you never know what kinds of people are out there looking to cause harm. You never know when you're going to randomly get a stalker. Like, you know, and it's not just me now. It's my partner and my younger sibling. And if we ever have kids, like, it'll be my kids at risk. Like, you know. Anyway, bullying is stupid. I don't really need to be on here. What's going on Blue Sky today? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I forgot to talk about the most significant thing that happened. Okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. So, did you guys see the meeting with Trump and Mamdani? Because what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Actually, what the fuck? Okay. So I had to watch it because I kept seeing these memes, or I kept seeing these like screenshots of quotes from the meeting, and I was like, that's not real, right? That can't be real. Okay. So I watched it. I went and and listen. Okay, hold on. I'll show you what I watched. I want to show you. Let me find it. Hold on. Okay, where was it? Pull it up. Okay, so here's what I watched. I watched from the Associated Press, 4 million subscribers, the official Associated Press channel, live, Trump and Mamdani meeting, full. If this wasn't from the Associated Press, and if it wasn't like 30 minutes long and therefore like really difficult to, you know, with the AI bullshit, I would not believe that this is real. There are a lot. I'm like, okay, are you sure? Okay, it's from the Associated Press. Okay, it's uncut and doesn't seem like it's fucked up AI shit. I guess it's real because what the fuck? Okay, so the meeting that they had prior to this press conference, we don't know the details. Okay, we don't know the details of that meeting. And also, like, one thing that I noted that has stuck out to me is, like, Mamdani's face in the pictures that were posted on Truth Social and stuff. I have seen this man smiling in every single other video or appearance I have ever seen him. This is pretty much almost, like, as positive as his facial expression gets at any point in this. He does, you know, he does, like, smile a bit at times, but his stone cold face, like, so serious the whole time. I've never seen Zoran looking that serious for that long of it. Like, look at this tiny little smile right there. So he's taking this, he's like, I am not happy to be here. I'm taking this very seriously. That's the impression I got. He's like, I'm not psyched to be here, but I need to make sure that the president isn't actively impeding my mayoral, like my representing the city of New York. So I think he felt like it was really important to get out in front of this. And I respect that. I just didn't expect him to get so far out in front of it that, like, Trump actively likes him. Like, prior to this, Trump was saying, like, oh yeah, that communist, he wants to have a meeting with me, I guess, whatever. But I think Mamdani just, like, stayed on message. He's like, you know, Mr. President, we both love the city of New York. I'm here to make sure the city of New York is, you know, successful and like thriving and everything. And like, you know, Trump likes winners. We're going to be clear about that. Trump likes winners, and Mamdani won by like a pretty large margin, both in the primary and in the actual election. So I think that there's an amount of respect for that. And Like, I don't know what it is, but Mamdani, Trump clearly likes him. There's this one exchange. I'm going to scrub through and see if I can find it. I can't remember exactly when it was. So you guys obviously know about there's the part where someone's like, okay, so Mamdani, you have previously called the president a fascist. Are you sticking with that? And he starts to go like, well, I've always said that. And Trump interrupts and is like, no, it's okay. You can say it. I don't mind. He said earlier in it, he was like, I've been called much worse things than a despot. Also, I noticed that someone else called Mamdani a jihadist. And so someone asked Trump, like, do you think you're standing next to a jihadist? And he said, well, that person who you're quoting, she's on the campaign trail right now, and you say things during a campaign. And this was really revealing to me, honestly. I think that Trump is like, I'm a liar and I just say things, so I don't really care about what people say. He's more about the vibes. He cares more about vibes. So he's like, I don't really take it that seriously that Zoran called me a fascist because he was campaigning, and you say whatever you need to camp. He's like a liar. He's like, I said whatever I needed to say to get in office, and that's what I expect other people to do. So he doesn't take it very seriously. And even though Zoran was like, yeah, I do. He's like, yes. It kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit through the crosstalk, but Mamdani did affirm, yes, I believe that Trump is a fascist. It's just that Trump doesn't care. It just doesn't mean anything to him. It's boing whip. Like, it just is nothing for him. So, yeah, for him to be like, yeah, I really like this young man. I think he's going to do a great job. And like, what the fuck do you do if you work for Trump right now? And you know that Trump is really hard to direct and control. Like, if you control his information landscape, if you only show him images from 5 years ago in Portland when things were at the height of the George Floyd protests, and you show that to the president and act like that's what modern day Portland looks like, then sure, you can convince the president that military presence in Portland is necessary. But if you take away all that management and he gets to directly interface with Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani, he finds like, oh, I actually like this guy. Oh, I think he's going to do a great job. And you know what? I want him to do a great job because that means that we're doing well for New Yorkers. And like, what does this mean? I keep feeling like I keep running into this situation where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I think I know what's going to happen next, and then I get completely blindsided by something. This is so beyond the scope of anything I could have expected, and my gabbers are flasted. Like, what wedge in could this be for if Trump really likes Mamdani, and if they continue to have meetings, and if they ever talk about anything outside the scope of what is appropriate for the city of New York? Like did Zoran just buy himself an extra year of not having a full-on ICE invasion of the city of New York? Because he's just likable. Because he bothered to be likable. Like, if Pritzker had tried to make chummy with Trump before, would we not have an invasion of Chicago now? Like, and maybe to some extent it's because Mamdani cannot run for president, and so maybe Trump just views him as like not threatening in that way, because he's not threatening to Trump's future gunning for power kind of things. But it really has me questioning, what does Trump actually believe, if anything? Like, when he said something about putting people to death, did he actually say that? Like, the Congress, like, they're doing treason, and so we're going to put them to death thing? Like, I think Trump just says stuff. I don't know that we can think like he's actually going to do anything, because he'll just say things and be like, yeah, whatever, right? Like, and then they don't follow through. And sometimes it's like all the other people around him that are really like the architects of the fascism. He's like, I don't really give a fuck as long as people are, he's a mafioso. What he wants is for people to be like, yes, sir, Mr. President, let me kiss your ring. Like, it kind of feels like that's all he really wants out of this. That's a good point. Yeah, if Trump runs in 2028, Mamdani should just run as his challenger. If the GOP's candidate is just going to blatantly violate the Constitution, and then fuck it, we run an immigrant. I don't see why you I don't see why you wouldn't at that point. Except obviously that the Democrats have to position themselves as being the pro-Constitution party, but like, what happens if in the next 3 years Mamdani and Trump become more friendly? Now, obviously, that would be a very one-sided friendship because Mamdani fucking hates being in a room with this man. It seems very clear. But what if he gains like the ear of the president, and if Trump is talking about 2028 and stuff, and if Mamdani could be like, you know, I love and respect the Constitution of this country that welcomed me as an immigrant, and like if I can't run as an immigrant to this country for president, then why? Then like, you know, in our mutual respect for this country and all it stands for, then, you know, is there a word in, like, is there a wedge in, is the question here. That friendship with someone like Zoran Mamdani could result in Trump not running or something. I don't fucking know. I don't know, dude. And like, I have no fucking idea. Like, this whole thing has just rocked my world in a way that I was completely not expecting. All right, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Had to handle my window situation. But yeah, I think Mamdani may be the very early stages of people re-embracing empathy and not being too cool to care. Yeah, and I respect that he's like, I've already won, but it's still important to me to be interfacing directly with the people of my city. Like, there was a Veterans Day parade, and he was like, it matters more to me to be here on the ground with veterans than it does for me to be in a parade. Like, I do kind of appreciate that he's just like, I'm not really invested in the pomp and circumstance. You know, he's an excellent communicator. They ran an excellent campaign, but I think that maybe part of the issue is that for so many political candidates and politicians who are already in office and everything, like, they're kind of always running for re-election. And so I wonder if there's to an extent that like Zoran is like, I don't really give a shit about like going out at parades. Like, I actually want to just do a good job governing the city. And I'm kind of curious if that is because of like, he is just like not a candidate who's going to run for office the entire I don't actually know what the term limit is, whatever, the 4 years, 2 years, whatever, that he's going to get to be mayor. You know, maybe he's going to be like, look, when we get closer to the time, then sure, maybe I'll be making more of these public appearances or whatever, but he's still going to want to be doing ones that are like directly interfacing with people, directly personally impactful, and not just like, I'm a figurehead representing the city of New York, like in Spider-Man, giving the key to Spider-Man, like giving the key to the city away or whatever. It's like, there is a practical role, and I think that Zoran is focused on that practical role and not so much on the symbolic role of being mayor. And I think that, you know, that's probably going to end up winning him out more. Like the fucking Republican candidate being like, well, I always want to be at these parades and blah, blah, blah. 4 years. Okay, good. That's what I thought. But yeah, like that the Republican candidate was like clearly seeing the role of mayor as one that is largely symbolic. He certainly does not give off the constantly campaigning vibes, which is shockingly endearing. Right, it's like, now that he's won, he's like, now it's business time, you know? I'm still going to be pleasant and smiley and stuff when it counts, but like, I'm not aggressively trying to get people to donate to me or vote for me or anything. So yeah. Oh, there's a 2-term limit on mayor. Okay. So yeah, he's like, look, I'm going to have 4 years to do a lot for this city. And like, shit, maybe he's the kind of politician who won't run for mayor a second time. Maybe he'll dip out. Or no, he was an assemblyman before, so he's going to clearly continue to be active in politics. Like, at that point, does he run for governor? Whatever, at that point. He doesn't say anything about having any further aspirations. He's like, I am right now focused on making the city of New York the greatest city in this country. Like, and the fact that he can that Trump was like, he's going to make New York great. Like, okay. This timeline has me losing my fucking hair. Like, I don't know what's going on anymore. He's keeping the current police chief as the police chief. Yeah. He's, he's not making a lot of huge changes. That's something that you know, I think can be important if you're a political candidate that everybody is already kind of afraid of you being extreme in some manner. Then I do see the utility in being like, no, we're not reforming the entire, we're not cutting the police budget. We're keeping the same number of police officers and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, some of that is necessary, at least in the beginning, to give a sense of stability in the transition from one government to another. What was it? There was some part in this where, like, Trump kind of affectionately, like, elbows Zoran, and Zoran does a little, like he's gonna tap his shoulder back. And, yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene is quitting Congress. I did just see the news about that. I don't know what the deal is with that either. I do know that she's fallen out of graces with Trump. Trump was like, fuck her, I don't want to deal with her anymore. She is now jumping on the affordability train. Like, she's pissed off that she was like, my children's premiums are going to go up by this crazy amount. Like, my children trying to, you know, get health insurance for my grandbabies and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, does she actually, I think we talked about this a little bit before on Wednesday too, because, like, is she actually changing in some way? Like, obviously she's still the Jewish space lasers lady. Like, she's still like a crazy CrossFit person. Man, scrubbing through this, I'm not going to be able to find this, like, blip of a moment between them. Am I? Was it toward the end? I felt like it was kind of toward the end. I don't know. I watched this full 30-minute thing and was like, what the fuck, the literal entire time. It was obviously clear as well that Trump invited, the White House, maybe not Trump himself, but, like, probably Caroline Leavitt, they invited all of these really confrontational right-wing people to ask questions during this press briefing. And on a couple of occasions, Trump ran interference for Mamdani. Like, you know, there was a really snarky, bitchy question at one point of like, I noticed you flew here, you know, Mayor-elect Mamdani, you know, wouldn't the train have been more the greener option? Clearly with a sneer in her voice. And Zoran, who could tell that she was being a bitch, was like, I will use all forms of transit and we will work to make them all affordable. And then Trump was like, hey, you know what? It takes a really long time to drive. You know, it's only 30 minutes on the plane. I'll come out and defend you. What? I don't know how to respond. I am hopeful that this means that there will be a good influence who can get a wedge into Trump as he's on Dementia Avenue and, like, help kind of guide that a little bit. In the worst possible interpretation, Zoran is also a liar who lied effectively to get elected, and now he's going to be fucked up and stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, that's the worst interpretation. In reality, probably what this means is just that Zoran has bought himself about a year of not having Trump breathing down his neck. Great. That's what he's accomplished. That's all he needed to accomplish as mayor of New York City, and trying to, like, you know, follow through. Ooh, I'm going to watch this later. Oh, NBC News 6 hours ago uploaded a video. Zoran Mamdani says he still believes Trump is a fascist after their meeting. Full interview, 17 minutes. Bet, bitch. I'm watching that later. Thank you so much.
And joining me.
Great. Yes, I will watch that later. Appreciate that. Because I want to know Mamdani's thoughts. I'm like, I want to know how he thought this went down. What were his goals? Like, what did he and the president talk about? Obviously, they're not going to disclose all of that. They basically already have said, we discussed affordability and how to keep, you know, New York City accessible and affordable. I was also surprised that people were like, some of the questions were about, you know, if Mamdani wants to raise taxes on billionaires in New York City, you know, if Trump is, you know, a high earner, then does he feel like he would want to not go to New York City? And he seems to be like, yeah, no, that seems fair. I wouldn't leave New York City because of that. Like, I need to go back and find that actual part of the transcript and re-listen to it. But it's basically like, okay, is there somebody who could convince Trump that billionaires should pay their fair share of taxes? Like, Is this going to be the moment where Trump in his full dementia like gets pulled hard away from being an insane fascist? I don't know. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said that MTG timed her resignation so that her congressional pension is fully vested and she engaged in a bunch of insider trading, so she's getting her bag and bouncing. I suspected that that was the case too. If she's like, oh, I'm going to start writing books or something. And so she's already kind of risen to a level of notoriety. And now she can just completely go back to the private sector and start doing book tours and stuff. That would not surprise me either if she's just out there to get her bag. Oh my God, my neck has been so sore lately. Ugh. Okay. Man, I wish I could find this little moment of like the little, like, honestly, like the way that Trump looks at Zoran is like affectionate. He's looking at him like literally like with endearment. And I just, this is a good thing? Is this a good thing? Is this my reaction to a good thing happening? Yeah, AOC suggested that it's because of her retirement and getting the bag. Hi, Fuzzy. Marjorie Taylor Greene is just doing this to save face for a PR routine. I refuse to believe otherwise. At best, she will just become a corpo dem, which isn't anything different from right wing anyway. Yeah, true enough. Fair enough. I watched the full resignation announcement. She is mad that she has been loyal but is being attacked and that MAGA was covering for Epstein. She's still a Nazi. Yeah, it's like when the death threats started coming to her for her not being a perfect loyalist, then, yeah. I'm late and only here for a second because I'm installing my new floor. But hello, friends. Good job, Lux, yesterday. Thank you. I was nervous. I don't know if you could tell in the first 5 minutes, especially. I didn't expect that my talk was going to be first. I thought that I was going to have like 40 minutes to just chill. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope that it accomplishes my goal of getting more people to take COVID seriously. If Trump's behavior at the meeting wasn't PR moves, then we have the most pliable politician at the moment, and his brain should be molded to our benefit. That's what I'm saying. Like, can Zoran, use this opportunity? There was a specific word I was trying to think of there, and I couldn't think of it. Like, leverage this opportunity into something, even if you... Like, he probably thinks that Trump is all the vile things that we think Trump is, right? Like, we think that Trump is either a pedophile or a pedophile enabler. Like, he probably, probably allegedly all these horrible things with regarding to how he treated women and young women and, like, girls and stuff. And he is clearly, like, a despot, and he doesn't seem to care what you call him, which kind of makes me feel at least a little bit more confident about saying the things that I believe about the president. It's like, okay, he doesn't seem to mind. Listen, you know that Trump would think that I'm hot and want to fuck, okay? I would get away with a lot. Anyway, yeah, so I would, if I were Zoran, I would leverage this moment. I would be like, this is the key in. Like, this, being close to the president can in some ways be more powerful and influential than being the president. If you can convince him to do something that you want him to do, if you can change his mind. So yeah, I do think that the dementia could be operating to our benefit in some cases, in some ways, in some locales. I don't know. It came through at first, but you did a good job and said smart words. Good. Thank you. I also didn't script it. I just made the outline, and then I was like, I'm just going to riff off of this outline and speak extemporaneously because I feel like that's my strength. I don't feel like I'm not a very strong speaker when I'm going off of a script. I think I'm a much stronger speaker if I just am like, if I can look at my notes and be like, oh yeah, and that's the next thing I meant to talk about. So, back to the thing that I was talking about. Trump doesn't even live in New York City anymore. Of course, yeah, he's not going to he's not going to care about that stuff that doesn't affect him personally. Good luck installing your floor, though, Quantum Chaos. My partner, he isn't currently installing floors, but that was his job for a long time, and I can understand how difficult it is. At the end of the day, Trump doesn't like to be unpopular, and with his base fracturing, there's always a possibility that he pivots on issues to have whatever position will make him popular again. Oh, certainly. I think he wants to be liked more than anything. And I saw someone speculating that maybe Trump and his administration agreed to this meeting because this was a meeting that Zoran requested. That maybe they were just going to use like all of this momentum and credibility, like that the credibility that Zoran could bring to the president. Yeah, I don't know, man. The weirdest timeline. It's true. It's the most fucking weird timeline. I'm not saying I'm upset. You know, I'm not like angry about this or anything. I just am, again, my gabbers are flaccid. I don't know what the fuck to do with this information. Like, I do not know how to deal with it. Fuzzy says, if the choice is between a Corpo Dem or a MAGA nut job, I vote for the Dem every day of the week. It is absolutely not true to say they are both the same. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to try to necessarily just say, like, whatever, they're exactly the same, but a corporate Democrat is not going to pull us any further away from fascism, which is, I think, the problem that people are having, that, like, these corporate Democrats are the reason for fascism now, in the way that, like, neoliberalism specifically paves the way for capitalism. Specifically paves the way for fascism. And I just don't, it's obviously like not as devastating to most people, but we have to remember that under the corporate Dems, Biden and Obama, families were being ripped apart. Children were in detention centers. Like, the immigration problem and like the drones across the world problem, like, yeah, there is like some surface level stuff that's different, but when it comes to like the underbellies of society, homelessness, the vulnerability of the most marginalized people in the society, like, all of those things are still fucked up and still happening. This massive loss of rights for trans people over the course of the last several years, almost all of that was happening under Biden. So, like, you can't try to tell me, like, oh, voting for a blue president is going to protect everybody. No, it fucking isn't. And they could have enshrined further protections. They can just, like, say, at the executive level, like, we're rewriting Title IX. Or, like, basically just, like, a bunch of bullshit that they could have done, or, oh, well, maybe they didn't have the votes or whatever. It's like, well, there's plenty of executive actions. This administration has made it clear that they will accomplish a lot of shit through executive action. Maybe the courts wouldn't have been behind Biden on all that, but yeah, I don't know. I just find it really frustrating when people act like corporate Dems are the solution to the problem, rather than like, this is only biding us 2 more years by voting for a corporate Dem. Like, it's pretty annoying. Well, what we need to do is keep platforming people like Zoran Mamdani to run as a Democrat and force the corporate Democrats to run as independents. Then we get our breaking down the duopoly system by, just creating a situation where corporate Democrats can't get a foot into their own fucking party, and so they have no choice but to run independent. Also, Marjorie Taylor Greene transferring to a corporate Dem would not take away her bigotry like a magic wand. Absolutely true. Yeah, paying with my face card. Yeah, and of course, we've got the 50-year history of how many times could they have enshrined abortion protections into legislation, but they never quite got around to it because it's way too convenient to keep campaigning on that and say, ooh, if you give us more money, I promise we'll make your abortion protections. We'll do it. Like, no, you're not going to. Okay, great. 50 years later, bye-bye abortion protections. Better hope you live in a state with a strong constitution. Like, bullshit. Biden was one of the people most responsible for mass incarceration. Yeah. Like, Biden has frankly been, like, one of the worst examples of a Democrat, like, actually being quite centrist, at least that I can recall. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know very much about Bill Clinton's presidency, but Biden did feel kind of uniquely um, conservative and uncharismatic. Oh God, is there anything exciting happening this upcoming week? I feel like, yeah, man, mm, that meeting with Zoran and Mamdani has just like derailed my brain for the next couple of weeks. Like, I have no fucking idea what's gonna happen. I have no fucking idea. People pretend Obama was a staunch defender of LGBTQ rights. Yeah, like he did not. He actually said when he was campaigning the first time that he did not support same-sex marriage, if I'm remembering. And it was while he was in office that he was like, actually, I do support same-sex marriage. So like, I fucking remember that. Hold on. An article from 2010 from CBS News. President Obama remains opposed to same sex marriage, even though he agrees with a district judge that California's ban against it is unconstitutional. Obama said during his 2008 presidential run that he opposed same sex marriage, quote, as a Christian. He thought that civil unions were a sufficient solution as of that article is from 2015, but I think that it's describing his past views. Yeah, so we can't pretend like, and if you don't support gay marriage, then like how much can you possibly support anything else about the policies? Biden busted that big strike too. I was under the impression that yes, they did break up the strike, but then they also struck a good deal for the rail workers. Am I remembering that correctly? It felt like people got hung up on the narrative that he broke up the strike, but people, like, the secondary news that didn't get spread as much was that they did actually come to an agreement. Never claim that voting blue will fix everything, but in the two-party system, you only have two choices in a general election. Yes, but it's like, you know, how much better is it really for a radical? I mean, in fact, if anything, I think that this is exposing the truth of the system. If a radical like Marjorie Taylor Greene, if a neo-Nazi like Marjorie Taylor Greene can find it acceptable to be a corpo dem, then that tells us everything we already knew about corporate dems. That in terms of their fundamentals, they are no different on the bigotry. They are no different on the prioritization of corporate profits over all human well-being. You know, like, if anything, I feel like that's revealing how much we don't have a two-party system. We don't. We have a one-party system. Both parties work together to fuck us over all the time. And very occasionally, you get people like AOC and Bernie Sanders who infiltrate the supposed left-wing party and try desperately to pull it toward its own stated values and goals and objectives, only to constantly be cock-blocked and floundering in that goal. In her resignation video, she was positioning herself as being to the right of Donald Trump and MAGA. Yeah, I don't know if she understands what that means. I honestly don't think she's a very smart person, like Marjorie Taylor Greene anyway. Ugh. People need to be willing to rise up against Dems and put pressure on them. We certainly do need to be putting pressure on them to be like, look, if you want to continue in your job as like a career politician Democrat, you need to start acquiescing to the left leaning part of your party, or we're going to fucking primary you out of existence. So yeah, I mean, I am always going to say I support grassroots organization, and that is, you know, it's not a bad thing. I share my hesitation to join a local political party because of reasons of like, I don't want to be doxxed. I don't want somebody to have beef with me and, you know, try to make my life more difficult. You know, I don't want to really deal with the whole lack of disability accommodations. I don't want to be the one person, the one unpopular person in the room who's fighting for us to start making masks a requirement of coming to the DSA meeting every month. Like, there are hesitations that I have personally around that, but I constantly say that you all should be doing that. Like, we should be working to, you know, get local candidates. And like, I vote and I encourage people to vote and everything. I think that it's good to protest. Even though I don't want to go to a protest because I'm not willing to put myself on the line in that way. Like, and like, maybe that makes me kind of a coward. And I'm willing to admit that, like, yes, I am afraid of having my face broken on the sidewalk because a cop throws me to the ground. Like, I'm afraid of being jailed and sexually assaulted and being denied water for long enough that my heart palpitations prevent me from doing anything but lying down on the floor of a cold concrete cell. Like, there are things that I am afraid of, and I am therefore not willing to put myself at that risk. And that's why I always say, like, it's up to everybody's personal calculation. Like, whether you're out as trans, whether you're an activist, whether you put your body on the line, all of those things are a personal calculus, and somebody has to be doing it. Am I a bad example because I'm like a do as I say, not as I do activist? Like, I don't know. Non-electorally as well, people need to be in the streets against Dems like they are with No Kings. Fair enough, yeah. Like that, it's just, yeah, people get complacent when the Dems are in power. They're like, yeah, everything's fine. We can go back to brunch, and they ignore the human rights abuses that are happening under their watch and all this kind of crap. So yeah, I mean, I feel like there's not a good answer to any of this. And again, I always fall back on this. It's all going to fall apart on its own in the next like 15 years. So, you know, at a certain point, it's like, what's going to happen in the future? Like, how is this going to, well, everything is going to continue business as usual or get more fucked up. And then the whole economy is going to collapse. And then we're going to be dealing with a whole completely different set of problems. Like, the idea of national politics might be a thing of the past. It's almost ironic that Joe Biden got elected on the most progressive platform any major party candidate has ever run on, but that also says more about how terrible the previous Dems were. Yeah. I feel like we didn't really get much of a progressive platform, you know? Like, did the tax situation get any better during those 4 years? Like, you know, Kamala, one of the things that she promised was like a $20,000 tax benefit if for first-time home buyers, and I was like, well, shit, we might actually be able to buy a house in the next couple of years. And then like, okay, well, Kamala didn't win, so that's not happening. Excuse me. Oh my god. Sometimes the fight picks you. It's okay to not be fighting actively all the time. Yeah, fair enough. I work with a charity that runs events, including protests, and supports other groups who also run protests in our city, and for us, the safety of the people in attendance is paramount. I have also seen it done really badly by groups that have nothing to do with us. Totally. Unionize, radicalize your unions, make co-ops if you can, do mutual aid organizing, build community and solidarity, and put pressure on elected people using the community you build. It's not for everyone if you don't feel able. Yeah, I mean, I feel like my strength is that I'm a political agitator, that like I'm hoping that my position is like I'm giving you guys the information that you need to be able to then do things like that. I am a conduit for information that then helps empower other people to get out there and do things. So that's kind of how I view my role. I don't create art in that sense. I'm not doing agitprop in that sense, but it is, I guess, kind of where I find my niche is effective communication, which I do think means that there is a possibility that I would be successful in a front facing political role. I don't really want to get assassinated if I try to run for something local, but that's not out of the question in the future. Like I might run for some local office in the future, or at least a leadership or organizing position in some kind of grassroots volunteer thing. But part of that too is that I need to work on my physical health. And I've just started doing a new exercise protocol this week that is almost certainly not going to result in any impressive gains. It's going to strictly be like a functional exercise thing that it will take a while before I can get to a place where I'm even exercising upright. So just being more physically capable in general will hopefully help with some of those things. The thing is, though, that the president can only sign the laws passed by Congress. Biden never had a majority in Congress the way Trump has and does. But, I mean, part of what I was saying, though, is that Trump has bypassed that process by just putting out executive orders. So apparently that was an option the entire time. Yes, functional exercise. I'm working on the CHOP protocol. I have to start all the way over because I technically started at the beginning last week, but I only did 3 days of it. So I'm just going to start all the way over again this week. But I'm like laying back and doing recumbent biking with like leaning way back and then like laying on the floor and doing exercises laying on the floor. So that's been pretty great. As an autistic introvert, I'd be terrible at any job that's person facing, but Lux, if you can do it good. I mean, maybe I wouldn't be good at it in actual in person. This is a public facing job, and I feel like I do a pretty good job at this, but also like I'm by myself, like in actual fact. I'm not having all of the drain of like moderating my tone or waiting for another person to speak or using my active listening skills or anything. So maybe I would be really terrible at a job where I have to make a lot of phone calls. Anyway, am I announcing like Luxander for Oregon 2028 right now? I guess. Who fucking knows what life is going to be like in 2028? I really hate that. I really thought that I was going to start to have a feeling of like long-term stability, but then things in my personal life keep being really fucked up in a way that, and like my personal life and my political life in a way that makes it kind of impossible to know where I'm going to be in 5 years. Am I going to ever be able to own a house? Like, I don't know. These are questions. But hey, again, I'm hoping that this like this very improbable Mamdani Trump friendship. I don't want to like tarnish Zoran by insinuating that he's friends with Trump, but you know what I mean? Like, I do hope that this means that there could be a way to influence this president to be less of an overt fascist. Yeah, we'll just have to see. I'm going to watch this NBC interview after, but greetings everyone, Tapper Dammer, and hello. Unfortunately, I am about to leave here in a moment. I relate to that more than I can express. My life keeps throwing insane curveballs at me, and I am just barely surviving. Yeah. I wish that I could. I feel like I keep having these moments where I feel like, okay, finally I can start investing in a future. And by that I mean like financially investing, but also like investing my emotional energy into a future. I don't know, probably a lot of you feel this, but if you feel like you cannot dream of your future because you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, if you're like, well, I have to move across the country and I don't know, I can't imagine what that's going to look like because I'm not physically there yet. Or if you're like, if you're not stable in your long-term partnership, or if you're like, maybe I'll have kids or maybe I won't, or if you're like, I've been having a really hard time keeping a job and so I don't know what, am I going to have this same job in 5 years? it really is not good for you, in my experience, to be like, yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. That, like, it gives you this, like, feeling of drifting listlessly through your life and just kind of trying to make shit happen on a day-to-day basis. And while you can find a lot of happiness and fulfillment in your day-to-day life, it is still, I think, like, eroding your core to it to an extent, to feel like you cannot invest in a future for yourself. So yeah, I'm hoping that we can start to get a, like, more of a sense of stability, and a sense that, like, there are good things that might happen in the future. I'll have kids in the terrible grim dark future when they are on the menu at the local street diner. Nom nom. But they're so stringy. I feel like maybe tender but stringy. Yeah, or there's the darkest timeline version of this where Mom Donnie gets radicalized to become a fascist, or that maybe he was lying the whole time and he's actually a fascist. Burger Planet's restreaming you on Discord right now. Okay, I don't know what that is. We're almost done though, so you're not really gonna get very. What's the purpose of that? Is it like, do people like hang out in a Discord and go like, hey, let's watch this stream together, instead of just hanging out in the chat of the stream? Is that a thing that people do? Maybe you could, maybe it's like a voice chat situation where you can, like, but then if you're watching a streamer, why would you want to have a voice anyway. Yeah, I hope to find the shore. I hope that it's I hope that, we can at least see the shore in the distance, if not, like, you know, actually swimming to it. At least we can start swimming toward a hypothetical future. Yeah, I hope you had fun sparring in a box. Well, I was planning on a 2-hour stream today, and we've just kind of crossed that threshold. So excited to rest a little bit before I have to do my production job later. So, ooh. I think the Discord restream is more for promotional purposes. I think that this is actually just a situation where people are hate watching me, maybe. Like, I'm kind of getting the impression that that is what's going on. But I was done anyway, so goodbye, everybody. If you love me, if you hate me, I wish you absolutely no ill will. I have every intention of just living my life peacefully, and if you are coming in here to bother me, then that says more about you than it does about me. So, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I don't think I'm going to stream on Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and give myself that night off. So, I will plan to see you in a week's time. I'll see you on Sunday. And, yeah, have a good holiday, everybody. I sincerely hope that you have an easy time, at the very minimum. An easy time, Friendsgiving, meet with the people you love, and have a wonderful time.
Inbox has donated $50.
Oh my gosh.
No soup for me, but soup for you.
Thank you, Inbox. That's very sweet. Right at the end, no soup for me, but soup for you. Soup, 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 soup. All right, love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Yeah.